All about the readers getting together and telling
Yeah,
their stories,
it is.
which we heard a
Yeah,
lot of in the program.
it is, Jean. And uh, what's happened is that it was Leslie Thomas and Colleen Curran invited me to come into this Facebook group, which was immigration, Connemara to Minnesota, 1880s immigration, the families and their stories. So I've been learning so much. And so other people, any sequels they want, welcome, write them. I want to read them.
That's great. Michael, there were some questions about the Kanamara Patch. And the main question is, did it exist before all of the problems with Graceville, or did it arise from the problems in Graceville?
It actually arose from the problems in Graceville. When Bishop Ireland decided he needed to disband the experiment and move most of the immigrants to St. Paul, he and the diocese arranged for land, places for the immigrants to work and places for the immigrants to live. So they huddled around the railroad track area since those were the jobs he was able to acquire for the immigrants, and erected their homes, and the people rented their homes. So it was really the Graceville group that started um, uh, Kanamara Patch, and then immigrants that came over as a result of the Tuke, James Hack Tuke's immigration scheme, just you increased the population.
Great, thank you. Um, this one is for Bridget, but also for all of you, I suppose. It's the question. The question is, I read the book and I'm still confused. It seems like some people believed that the Graceville program was a good idea. Others think it was a huge scandal. Others just forgot all about it. Which was it really?
Uh, let's see. I just got interrupted here, so
Okay,
I
so
didn't quite.
the question basically was, some people believe the Graceville program was a good idea. I mean, you have Bishop Ireland and that whole crowd that were defending it, and then you had others who thought it was a huge scandal, and others it just disappeared from their history. So, which was it really? Was it a scandal, or was it a program that worked for some and didn't work for others?
It was the railroad indemnities lands that was the scandal. It was the land scandal of Bishop Ireland and the Minneapolis Trust Company. Uh, and the land transfers. I mean, I could show you the documents. I've got them right here on the table in a box. um, that was the scandal, and and it did keep Bishop Ireland from who became Archbishop, but he never made it to Cardinal, and he was up for it. But uh, a Father Rosen out in the Dakotas wrote a tract called Bishop Ireland as He Was. And somebody sent me that, a copy of it. And it gave all of the where the documents were. So uh, that that for me was the real scandal. Uh, this uh, I
Okay,
don't know. In the history of it, it was just the word Connemara. I didn't know much about it except the slur. Yeah, that came
yeah.
down.
Um, Michael, you're a direct descendant from a Graceville family. Did your family end up on the right side or the wrong side of the scandal?
um, well, that's a good question. I don't think that it was either. I don't think it was either one. They um, they dealt with adversity the best that they could when they arrived at Graceville. And there were so many factors working against them. Uh, the weather, especially uh, the lack of experience in farming in that way, even constructing their homes, wood frame homes. Well, they came from homes that were made out of stone, so there wasn't a stick of wood for miles around.
They
Uh,
didn't know what a
so,
shingle was.
right. So they made the best that they could. So they went to Kanamara Patch, got jobs as laborers because that's the only way they could earn money. Uh, my my great grandfather's father is killed by a train, um, but they persevered. Um, Actually, I haven't located the land records, but I believe that my widowed two times great grandmother did eventually buy a home outside of Connemara Patch because there is a probate record that indicates she had an estate and $1,000 worth of real estate. And when she died of natural causes 3 years after her husband. Um, so they were rising above what was occurring. They were rising above adversity. They picked up their their lives and decided that they would come out to Tacoma, Washington, because in the late 1800s, the Pacific Northwest was considered to be a booming area, and of course it was. So they wanted to take advantage of that, and they came out to Tacoma, where they eventually stayed, where they died, where their descendants still live, where I live. Although I spent much of my life living around the country and in other places of the world, but I came back to Tacoma, Washington. So um, they were on the right side of, I think, the entire process.
So that leads me to another question, which Frank touched on, and he in his segment he said that there was opportunity in Minnesota, and that there was no opportunity in Connemara in Ireland at the time. And so, from that point of view, would you say that most people ended up on the right side of it? Because even though they struggled and they suffered terribly, and some didn't make it through that first winter, there was at least upward mobility from coming to America versus staying behind in Connemara. Would they have survived and had opportunity in Connemara?
Well, that's a good question. The famine was going on. There were a lot of uh, dynamics occurring in Ireland at the time. There were the nationalists who wanted the land reformers who wanted to reform how land was owned and allow tenants to purchase their property to reduce rents. So that was occurring, and of course there was conflict between the assisted immigration schemes and the land reform movement. At the time, there were many in the land reform movement who uh, was not in favor of the immigration schemes because they wanted land reform rather than people leaving, and they felt that a lot of good Irish citizens were leaving the country, and they didn't want that. So if they had, the answer to your question, if they had stayed, yes, they might have prospered just fine. Certainly, land reform did eventually occur around the beginning of the 20th century, um, so they might have prospered there. But they did come to America, and of course, America at the time was a very dynamic place, and they did get very good jobs with the railroad, and women worked at the time were traditional female jobs such as workers in some of the large hotels in the area and homes of the wealthy. So there were avenues of opportunity for them, and they took advantage of them. And I think basically most prospered. as well as they could.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Helen, there's a question about the DNA project. Do I need to be from Connemara to do it? And can I do it if I have my DNA from 23andMe?
Um, you don't have to be from Connemara. We have people all around the world that join. It helps because we're narrowed down to a region. I mean, you don't know though, because we have people that say, I had someone the other day, I don't have any Irish in me, and yet she found out she has quite a bit and was related to several other members at the center. Um, so, that doesn't really, it's not, and if you don't have it and you find you're not matching with anyone, you can always leave the project, but it's always worth the try to see if you're related to anyone. What was the other part, Jean?
About whether or not they can use their 23andMe DNA.
Oh, I believe so. It was for a while that 23andMe wasn't working very well as a upload, but FTDNA has a new algorithm, and I think things are working much better. So normally there's not a problem.
Okay, great.
Yes.
And for anybody who does want to learn about our DNA program, you can just visit our website at maineirish.com/genealogy, and there are links to the different DNA projects and information about how it all works. Let's see. I think I've gotten through most of them so far. Just a quick thing for everybody out there who's listening. If you want to ask any questions, you can just put them in the chat window in YouTube, and we'll be able to ask them from there. There was one more about tinkers. Let me see. Okay, so Bridie talked about how shocking and hurtful it was to hear Connemara's used as a disparaging term, since she's from Connemara and only thinks, that Connemarans or Irish in general are hard workers. There was something in the book about how maybe Connemars were confused with tinkers, who were like gypsies. Was it partly confusion, or were they just really being scapegoated by Bishop Ireland as to take the highlight off of the scandalous part of the whole affair?
A lot of the language sounded similar to the language used about tinkers. It was my friend Judy, a poet, who said, "Tinkers, Bridget, they're tinkers." And it was particularly the Conroy family that I've got a big file on. And Conroy was a blacksmith that Cappy took me to. And so this is one of the stories I didn't get to follow because I had to get the manuscript to the press to get the book out. So that's a story that still tempts me. Actually, I was going through the Conroy files and tempted to call up Kathleen, who was an insurance agent out here in the East Bay of San Francisco, Berkeley, and all that.
Okay, so how does it feel, Bridget, to know that you are related to two of the best storytellers in Ireland? Does it make sense to you based on your own work? And you retired to follow your journey? Any regrets?
No, I mean, I did retire very early. I guess it was 96, so that I could spend full time getting this story and traveling between Western Minnesota and Connemara. What did you ask me? Do I have any?
So the first one was about how does it feel to know you're related to two of the best storytellers
The storytellers
in Ireland?
That's an absolute kick, because that's what I taught at the university, was oral traditional storytelling. It was these bards. You had a picture of my Arab folk epic and identity book on it. And I was really the outsider. There's always this dialectic of the inside and the outside when you're doing a tradition that's not your own. And boy, was I an outsider with a male oral epic that was transmitted over 1,000 years. The migration of the Hilali tribe and the conquest of North Africa by the Arabs, actually. Um, so uh, when this when it became my own family's migration story, no, I had to go for it. I had to go for it. So, and I wanted to spend full time on it. So the storytellers then were that was the kick was meeting Tom Bartley, Tom Sala. Bertie Feeney took me to his Uncle Tom. And I was, I had shivers going up and down me the whole time. It was Halloween, actually. And then the Marching of Kine, the James Joyce of Gaelic, only he's better, according to my colleague Dan Malia in the rhetoric department at Berkeley, who it's the Irish program. He founded it here at Berkeley. So that was a thrill, the storytellers, because here it came, and
So you got more than your red hair from the Irish, that's for sure.
yeah, there might be a storytelling gene. I think
Yeah,
that's what Dan said.
probably. Maybe Helen could answer that with the DNA. Um, I guess, Michael, this one's probably for you. Is there somewhere where we can find collections of photos from the early years of Graceville?
Oh, well, I think the Minnesota Historical Society has many photos. Um, and some of the archival institutions in that area, the Ramsey County Historical Society also, uh, the newspapers. You had many good photos during the during the program. There were many interesting photos on our Facebook group, Connemara to Minnesota in the 1880s. We frequently publish photographs or post photographs rather. And also there are a number of St. Paul old St. Paul historical Facebook groups that are into St. Paul history that post old photographs. So there are many places for them.
Okay, and so there's another question coming up, but before we do that, Michael, I just wanted you maybe to just quickly tell everybody about the fact that the Kanamara Patch is going to be officially recognized.
Oh, sure. Oh, yes, yes. We're really very proud of this. A group of descendants got together. Leslie Thomas was really in the forefront of doing this. Is working with the St. Paul city of St. Paul to compose and install a sign that commemorates Connemara Patch and the people who live there. And it's being completed and scheduled to be installed in the Connemara Patch area near the 7th Street Bridge or near the 7th Street tunnels, I think it is. Um, Actually, very close to where my great great grandfather was killed by a train, which is quite poignant to me. Um, we'll install the interpretive sign. It's one of six interpretive signs, or six or seven interpretive signs that acknowledge and describe cultural groups in the area. But this is about Connemara Patch, and we're really very proud of that. And it's scheduled to be installed in October, but it may be delayed until November. Is I think the latest word on that. But
Okay,
yeah, we're extremely proud of that.
yeah,
A well-deserved recognition, we believe, for our poor ancestors who have been hidden for so many years.
it's really congratulations. It's wonderful.
Thank
We
you.
have a question from Colleen Curran, who asks if there exists a list of names of the families that went to Graceville. Not everyone on that June sailing of the Austrian went to Graceville. Where did they go? St. Paul, Boston, Maine?
Uh,
Hmm.
well, can you repeat the question
Yeah,
again?
so Colleen's asking, she
Yeah.
says that not all of the families that were on the Austrian went to Graceville. So where did the others go? Did they go to St. Paul, Boston, Maine? Do we know?
Some of them,
Um,
some of them jumped ship in Boston uh, and never made it to Minnesota. So there's another story.
right. Yeah.
Um,
There are all. Yeah. Also on the Austrian, there were passengers from other locations um, from uh, uh, from Glasgow. There were passengers, and from another port in Ireland, there were passengers. There were also a lot of single individuals that um, that came over. But I think yes, I think mostly they went to probably remained in Boston or in the East Coast, or maybe went up to Portland, Maine.
Did they get in any kind of trouble for that, do you think? Because they were meant to be going to Graceville. It was a sort of, organized
Well,
project.
really only the families were really meant to go to Graceville. It was a scheme that was focused on families, destitute families, rather than single individuals. Although there were many single individuals on, and they show as being as boarding in Galway, and they're all sort of mixed in with the passengers, and so you have to sort of look at the passenger list and try to identify the family units that are that are on the passenger list, and sometimes it's difficult to do. Plus the clerk who filled out the passenger list did not do a tremendously good job of accurately transcribing names. Many names are completely different than what their actual names were, and we've only figured that out by comparing the family units, the profiles of the families, with later census records that had families that corresponded in age to the passenger lists. So
hmm.
Okay. Helen, we've got another one for you, which is, did you, in your DNA project, did you find any matches between the people in Minnesota in this program and the people in Portland?
Oh, absolutely. To my great delight, I found several. I'm related to Colleen, and Bridget is related to several of us at the center. Michael's related to a few of us. So, yeah, and Leslie, I can't remember what Leslie had, but I'm sure she's got someone there. And yes, absolutely. I mean, you know the saying, Jean, we're all related. So,
That is
Hmm.
true. I like, there's a story that somebody tells, I think Deb, that when somebody comes into the
oh,
center as a
yes,
friend, they usually leave as a cousin because we find some
absolutely.
kind of connection with them. So
Yep.
we encourage anybody who wants to learn more about genealogy or to visit us and use the great resources we have to just check that out on our website, which is maineirish.com. I think we've reached the end of the questions. I guess my last question would be if you guys have any questions for each other, the three of you on the screen right now. And
Helen
who's
and
on the
Michael.
screen? I can't
oh,
tell.
Michael
I
and
can't see
Helen
the
and
screen.
Bridget. So Michael, Helen, and Bridget.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
Or any closing comments you'd like to make. We can start with you, Bridget.
I'm thinking about the Connemara Patch actually, because and also Portland, Maine, because something I've learned just while we've been recording this over uh, over the past week, and I've made a deep dive into my archival boxes here. Um, what I uh, m- my Aunt Winnie lived on Dayton Avenue in Dayton's Bluff,
oh,
and our family went down there constantly to the patch. And let's see, what was the other thing I was going to say? I'm distracted by the fact that my battery's running low on my.
Uh-oh. Less than a graceful exit. So yeah, just any closing comments. We can come back to you again if you think of
Oh,
something else.
Portland, Maine. That was
Yeah.
it. That was it. It turns out that the Burns's, grandma's husband's family, the Burns brothers, they came to Graceville via, guess where? Portland, Maine. I never realized that before. So if there's DNA connected with me and people in Portland, Maine, it could be from
From the Burns. We have
from the
a
Burns family. Yes.
we have the Burns sisters who are here, which are Kaylee dancers. They have the Kaylee dancing school. So
Yeah.
maybe they're related to the Burns brothers.
Yeah. This was all news to me, just of the past day or so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, Helen, did you have any closing comments that you wanted to make?
I think I'd just like to say that if anyone listening or anyone that sees the video later has any interest in doing a DNA test, it's very simple to just go to FTDNA and order a test. It comes, and then you can join the projects. And I really think, and I tell everybody, it's worth joining. It's worth taking a DNA test and joining to see. Because remember how long it took us to get Bridget, and she kept saying, no, I don't have any relatives. And then when we did get it, yes, she has quite a few. And so you just never know. And it's really worth it, especially out in Minnesota or even where Michael is. They're all over the world. So it's worth taking a DNA test if you're interested, that is.
Okay, and then Michael, I'd like to ask you to maybe tell everybody about your Facebook group, which is the Connemara to Minnesota in the 1880s or 1800s, and then also your closing comments.
Right. Well, exactly what you said. It's Connemara to Minnesota. Um, from Connemara to Minnesota in the 1880s, families and stories. I'm not sure if I have actually the title correct, but we have almost 300 members. It's focused on those who have ancestors who came from Connemara and who settled in Minnesota. But of course, like we've been talking about, the descendants just spread all over the country and all over the world, really. And we do have members of the group that are from outside the United States. But it's a great group. Please check it out. Request to join. We ask a couple of questions, and we hope that you answer those questions before we approve your membership. But it's a great group. We're focused on presenting the stories, filling out family trees, preserving records and documentation. That's what we're all about. So please check that out. And just finally, thank you very much I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I just loved all the presentations, and especially Bridget's. It was just so meaningful, and her book, really is. I think I've mentioned to her that certainly the best book on immigration that I've ever read, but it's really one of the best books I've ever read, period. It's so well written,
Michael.
so
Wow.
well researched. I just encourage everybody to purchase it and read it. It's excellent.
Yeah, I have to second that because it is really so well written. It's really engaging on so many levels.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
you can tell that you're a real professional, Bridget. Yeah.
So thank you all. This is I'm overwhelmed actually. Yeah. So of course, me looking at the book, this brand new one, you know, see, the scholar in me is still thinking, oh well, let's see now. Did you get that right? That's not exactly right. So But, you know, you have to let go of a book at a certain point and just accept what it was at the time. This was written in 2003. So here we have a 2021 paperback. It's thank you, Jean.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Michael Carlson, Helen, and all the people.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
been a
and
pleasure.
the Facebook group, that Facebook group is wonderful. Yeah, I'm so pleased with that.
Yeah, I just want to, in closing, say one more thing, which is it dawned on me, and somebody just sent a comment about it as well, Eileen Fairdy. You know, when here in America, when we think about ancestry, we're thinking about finding our lost ancestors in Ireland. But there are a lot of people in Connemara and in other parts of Ireland that are trying to find what happened to their families, future oriented. You know, they're trying to find lost families that are, you know, alive today in different parts of America, and they lost track of them. It's sort of the story that Bridie told about her great uncle Antony. So that's something, just, you know, realizing we have both those perspectives of looking to
Yeah,
the past, but also looking to the future.
that's
Absolutely.
exactly how the whole Forgetting Ireland story started with Joe Cook coming. It was the question of whatever happened to the people that were shipped out, basically, to Minnesota. So they were finding out what's this Minnesota story all about, and it was the people in Ireland looking for us with the Gael Talk radio show, and they called in, and that's how the Flaherty's there. And they'd always been wondering what happened to them. Well, they found out, and we really got to work on it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. It was really fascinating and enjoyable, and I'm
Jean,
very honored to have been a part of it. What,
Jean,
yeah?
I'd
Helen.
just like to say to Bridget, thank you from the Maine Irish Heritage. We really appreciate having this opportunity to do this book chat with her. It's been wonderful. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to end the broadcast then, and it's been lovely. So thank you, everybody.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Jean.
Bye bye.